What's up, guys? It's Courtney, one half of the Brothers Deconstruction here. Today, I am interviewing a very, very special guest. Most of you may know him from his voice work of characters like Thor from Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes, the narrator of Werewolf by Night, the comedian in Watchmen Chapter 1 and 2, and other roles. And ladies and gentlemen, I welcome the talented Rick Wasserman. Thank you again for making
Hey,
time out for of your busy schedule to interview with me.
for sure. Yeah, my pleasure.
How are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm good. It's Monday, it's like another Monday. I'm gearing
It's
up for it.
it's
Here comes the week.
it's definitely a Monday. So the first thing that I have to ask, and it would be a missed opportunity if I didn't ask you this. For those that are unaware, my brother and I have this YouTube channel. We originally started it to review like movies and other things like that, but also uh, provide commentary and just talk about things that interest us, mainly Power Rangers. The reason why I'm bringing that up is because the composer of the legendary Mighty Morphin Power Rangers theme song is Ron Wasserman.
No
Rick is
way.
Rick, is that your brother?
It's not. It's
Okay.
not. But now I kind of wish it was. What a cool credit that is. There's a whole bunch of Wassermans all over the place. I don't think I'm related to most of them. But when I lived in Los Angeles, the head of Universal Studios, I believe, for a long time was this guy Lou Wasserman, and he had children who also worked in the industry. So whenever I had to go to Universal to
Wow.
record anything or use any of the studios, and I give them my ID, they go, are you related? I always felt like saying like, well, if it'll give me better parking, yeah. I mean, sure, why not? But
Oh,
nope, no Ron.
that is amazing. Yeah, I had to ask that because it's so insane how I came across your page. Obviously, the algorithm kind of puts any and everything into your feed, depending on what you like. And I love behind the scenes stuff and
Mm.
just an insight on acting and voice acting and everything like that. And so when I came across your video, and obviously because we replied to each other in the comments, but for
Yeah.
anybody that may or may not watch this video, Rick was like, you may recognize my voice and Thor from, and I was like, wait, that's Thor? Okay, cool. But sidetrack, I recognize this guy's face from somewhere.
Mm.
And it was really, really bugging me. And I was like, no, I recognize you. First of all, that's great that you're Thor. I love Earth's Mightiest Heroes, but I recognize your face from somewhere. And I was like, okay, no, I need to go to his IMDb, see what else he's been. I do that. If I see like a person that I recognize from somewhere, I'll do that. I'll go check their history. And then
Sure.
once I scrolled down, it was like House. I was like, that's it. That is it. So like basing off your, going from your IMDb, you started out as a TV actor before doing narration on megastructures, and then the Flushed Away video game, which looks like, if IMDb is accurate, looks like the first voiceover work that you did in like a game. What made you start doing voice work, specifically video games, before you got into animated work?
Yeah. I mean, the way I had always treated voiceover was like I was an actor. Like I went to undergrad for acting. I went to
Mm-hmm.
graduate school for acting. I got my
Mm.
MFA in acting, right?
Okay.
Like I'm an MF actor, right? Like
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
that's what I do. And and so I started doing like on-camera commercials. I started doing plays. I started doing TV shows. I would just act wherever there was work. I just
Yeah.
auditioned for anything. I don't know that at any time I thought like I want to be on Law and Order. I auditioned because that was the thing that, people are auditioning for.
Yeah.
And then the same thing happened for voiceover. It's not that I ever went into the business going, I'm going to be doing promo. I'm going to be the voice of AMC. I'm going to do Thor. I never had any plan. I just auditioned. I just auditioned like everybody else auditioned. And it just so happened that the first thing I booked was promos. So I
Hmm.
was the voice of The Wire for HBO. And then I became the voice of Oz for HBO. And then I started doing a lot of HBO stuff, boxing, Friday Night Boxing or whatever it was on HBO. And then I started doing another channel. I was the voice of Food Network for a while. And I was
Oh
the voice
wow.
of A&E for a while, and then I became the voice of AMC. And throughout all that, I'm also auditioning for, voiceover commercials. So I'm doing a McDonald's commercial there, and then I started doing a little animation. I actually think that the very first animated thing I ever booked was Hulk. I really think that was like the very first one, which is crazy,
Yeah.
especially because in my youth, the only Hulk, I never read a comic, I never saw anything. The only Hulk I knew was the TV show with Lou Ferrigno and Bill
Yep.
Bixby. Like that was my Hulk. That's
Yeah.
all I knew. And the Hulk in Planet Hulk was very different than that. First of all,
Very
he
different.
talked. Lou
Yeah.
Ferrigno never spoke.
Yeah.
And and maybe like for better or for worse, I had not watched any other version of Hulk. So I didn't have it in my head how he was supposed to sound or the way
Yeah.
he says smash. I just did my own thing
Hmm.
and hoped that somebody liked it, and somebody liked it. So I never really had like a planned trajectory. I'm going to do video games before animation.
Yeah.
I took it when it came.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. Awesome. And I also do think that I do want to tie it back in the house. I do find it incredibly ironic or coincidental, whichever word is the
Yeah.
actual proper word to use,
Yeah.
that on the by the way, it's I have to look directly into my camera for this. Season 6, episode 2, epic fail. Rick plays a video game developer who is the patient for the case of the week, because House, as people know, is an episodic case of the week series and everything like that. So he was the case of the week of this particular episode. I forget what condition your character had, but I do remember that your character was hallucinating when they were like testing out and working out bugs for a game. And
That's right.
you do not know how excited I was when I realized that I recognized you from House. I literally, like, after replying to your video,
Uh,
I literally went on Disney Plus, pulled the episode up after finding it on your IMDb, and I was like, that's him. That's him. Obviously, much younger. You don't
yeah,
have
yeah.
the, short black hair. It's
That's
not,
right.
no clean shaven.
I
You have an
know.
epic beard now and long, luscious hair, going by your
But man, that's so
videos.
impressive that you could even spot me. And you're not alone. This whole social media thing for me is very new. I've been at
Yeah.
it for just a couple months now.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, I mean, I've always been teaching. I've been teaching for 15 years,
Oh,
but I never advertised. It was just sort of like, if you found me, I'd teach you.
yeah.
And I teach 3 clients a day, so I have time for my own voiceover and stuff. And yeah, just the number of people who have seen me on social media and said House. I mean, it was it's like one episode of an entire series. I never did another episode of House. It was just that one. It's astounding. I mean, either people have like the greatest memories, or they're just watching that show, that series again and again
Yeah.
to remember it. But the thing that I remember most about that show was that I auditioned for it when my wife was very pregnant with our
Hmm.
first kid. And I found out that I got it. And I was in touch with the director, and we would talk about it on the phone, like what we expected and how the shoot date was going to go. And then she went into labor. And we had both of our kids at home. We had home births. So I was delivering the kid uh, in a little pool in our house. And the next
What?
morning, I had to be on set. But I was up the whole night. And clearly, my head was not on the show. But I was holding my son for the first time and all this stuff. My
Wow.
agent called the production and said, listen, Rick's just had a son this evening. Um, is it okay if he's there a little bit later? So they gave me a slightly later crew call,
Yeah.
when to show up. Anyway, I finally show up, and 2 great things happened. The first one is the entire production stopped and gave me a round of applause.
Wow.
It was so lovely. Like everyone stopped, put down their stuff, and just started applauding. And it was very touching. And then the next best
Wow.
thing was that day of shooting, the whole day, I got to be in bed. The whole
That's
part that I filmed, I was in bed, so I was allowed to be exhausted and look like crap because I was the sick guy in a hospital bed.
yeah.
Yeah,
Wow, that is amazing, and I'm so happy that you went into that story, because I was actually going to ask you what your experience doing that episode of House was, but it's amazing to hear that news traveled fast around
yeah,
set that you know, you had just had a kid and everybody stopped and congratulated you on
Isn't
that.
that sweet? Yeah.
That is amazing. I love hearing about stuff like that. Um, you know, obviously you're probably most well known in your voice work for Thor. I think obviously, you know, the small commercials and other things like that aren't on your IMDb.
Oh
But
yeah,
I know Earth's Mightiest Heroes looked like your longest tenured project that you were a part of. I
probably.
every day I hate that we didn't get more seasons of Earth's Mightiest Heroes. Like I
Yeah.
really hate it. What was your experience on that series and what was the feeling after they had decided to cancel it to transition into Avengers Assemble?
Yeah. I remember auditioning for the Hulk and then booking the Hulk and shooting that or recording that. And the interesting thing about that was in the Hulk, in Planet Hulk, he's meant to be isolated. Like he's
Hmm.
not with the Avengers. He's very isolated. And I recorded the whole show, the whole film alone in a
Yeah.
studio by myself, you know, with producers and directors on the other side of the glass, but with no other actors.
Yeah.
And then I heard about Earth's Mightiest Heroes and they asked me to come in to audition for Hulk. And I auditioned for it, and the director's like, tell you what, could you try to read for Thor? And I knew less about Thor than I knew about Hulk. So I said, sure. And I said, let me just think of what he might sound like. And so I read a little bit about him and I thought, I'm just going to make him into like big, good-natured Boy Scout, right? And so I read it and they liked it. And so I booked it. And then when I showed up, and I hadn't had this experience before because I was mostly doing promos. So like
Hmm.
commercials for TV shows and concerts. So I was the voice of networks
Yeah.
and that you do all by yourself. But suddenly for Earth's Mightiest Heroes, we all recorded at the same time. So all the
Really?
voice actors would be in one room with like 15 mics around the room, and we'd all have chairs against the back perimeter of the room. And when it was our time, we stood up and we did the thing and then sat back down. So we were there
Wow.
for the whole thing and we recorded it in order, you know?
Wow.
So that I don't know if that happens a lot, but boy, it was the first time it happened for me. And everyone was so great. They were all so supportive. And I felt very fish out of water, you know,
Hmm.
doing promos and saying like The Walking Dead
Yeah.
only on AMC is very different than having these lines and stuff. Now I'm an actor, so I'm used to having a script.
Yeah.
And I was doing The Lion King on Broadway. So I'm used to kind of like playing characters and having a cast of people around me. So being back in the room with a bunch of like well-intentioned, thoughtful, creative, playful actors was like heaven. I mean, it was so much fun. Interestingly, a lot of people who, and maybe a lot of people who do animation video game, also watch animation and play
Hmm.
video games, but I don't. I mean, I just happen not to. I don't know why. I just don't.
Okay.
I just never had. And so everything I was doing was brand new to me. Everything that
Wow.
I was reading and learning about these characters, I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know that they lived in a mansion together. I mean, I just didn't know anything about it. So it was really refreshing. It was like a whole new story for me.
Yeah.
Just like when I'd audition for anything. It's a brand new script, a brand new story, and we start from the beginning. But there are a lot of people that if they weren't standing at the microphone recording, they were sitting down and reading a comic. Like this was their life. This is what they
Wow.
loved. Yeah. I was reading books on parenting, which was a little bit different, but
Which makes sense. Which makes
yeah,
sense.
yeah.
That is so amazing to hear. So yeah, how was it like? What was the feeling after it got canceled?
I remember, you know, we became a fairly tight-knit bunch.
Yeah.
I remember the guy, Eric, who played Iron Man, bought everyone mugs. He had them made for Earth's Mightiest Heroes mug, and I
Oh
loved that
wow.
mug. And like, you know, everyone really stayed in touch. I was running at the time, and I ran with a couple of the guy who played Black Panther, and I would run.
Okay.
It was really, really nice. We all got to know each other. And then, yes, it just ended abruptly. And there wasn't any particular explanation, like we all did a bad job or,
Yeah.
you know, everybody hated everybody. It wasn't anything. It just ended. And I remember everyone had the same sentiment you did, like, man, I wish we had more time. I
Yeah.
wish there was more. I wish we could do more. But we had to let it go. And then some people went on to do the next versions of it.
Yeah.
I actually came on to the later version, played a bad guy in something or other. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. That credit is on your IMDb. I saw that too,
yeah,
and I was like, You should have just continued the show. I
But
really,
I can't complain. Like the
yeah,
people who the next Thor and the next Hulk, they're amazing. You know,
yeah,
like I have nothing to be upset about.
yeah,
I'm just grateful to have been a a part of it when it happened.
yeah. Fair enough. Fair enough. Um, So, talking about experiences on the projects a lot, what can make or break the experience of working on a project? Now, whether it be acting on a set or doing voice work in a booth.
Yeah, I think the thing that can make or break you the most is you're being prepared.
Okay.
Like your job as an actor, whether it's on stage or in front of a camera or behind the microphone, is to do your work. Your work is not necessarily starting on the day you perform.
Hmm.
Your work starts before that. That's looking at your script and doing research, script analysis, right? Asking yourself questions like, who am I in this scene? Who am I talking to in this scene? What is our relationship? What is my objective in this scene? How do I reach my objective? How do I get my goal accomplished? Like all that work, you're not doing on the day when they're like, action. You're
Right.
doing that way before. Thinking about that. Also being physically prepared for some things. Like, a lot of stage work that I've done, I'd have to be physically. I played Houdini once, and I trained with prestidigitation, like a close-up magic coach,
Yeah.
and a stunt coach, like for bigger kind of like escape from straitjacket kind of, which is great
Wow.
fun. I mean, it's also super fun, but it requires the work. So
Hmm.
yeah, the work is not just on the day of capturing your performance. It starts before that. And if you're not prepared, I think it can make it really hard on you and certainly hard on everyone else.
I can imagine that. Okay. Um, as you can see, I love this behind the scenes stuff. Like I am just enthralled hearing stories about, what goes on and the fact that you guys were all in a circle in the same studio and then got up one at a time. So like my actual question here is there a table read for something animated or a video game like there is for
Mm.
a film?
That's such a good question. In my experience, I've never had one.
Okay.
I'm not saying there aren't, I
Hmm.
just haven't had the experience. But I will also say that I really wish there was. I think it's a really good idea. I mean, almost every play I've been in, there's a table read,
Yeah.
right? It's like your first opportunity to hear the whole thing out loud with the voices who will eventually perform it and looking at the faces of the people who perform it. That's really valuable. And it's also your first opportunity to show people the work you've done. Listen,
Hmm.
folks, I put some thought into this, and this is what I've gotten so far. And then you slowly sort of like figure out what page everyone's on, right? Do we see eye to eye on everything? We hear what the director has to say. This is my vision. Oh, that changes what I do. Or no, it doesn't change anything that I do. So I think that table read can be
Gotcha.
so important. Sadly, there's not enough time for it very often. They got a very tight schedule, and so they just dig right in.
Yeah.
But boy, I think a lot could happen. A lot could be accomplished. Bigger, better
Mhm.
things with a table read.
Interesting. And so one of the reasons why I was so surprised to hear that, you guys were all in the same room, um, is that like how does that work where like the characters talking to each other like there it all I know that it always isn't dialogue isn't always clean, like there isn't always like me and you taking turns talking. Sometimes there might be an instance of somebody getting cut off or something like that. How does that work when everybody's one in the same room, and then
Yeah.
two, like is there like a pause or a break, or is there interference or worry about like other noises from other people in those?
For sure. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
Everyone who's not performing has to be absolutely silent. And that is why a lot of people brought things to read. And then
gotcha,
of course later people had touchscreen, phones so they could do that, wouldn't make any sound. It's pretty much okay. But obviously no jewelry, no corduroy, anything, no satin acetate kind of stuff that can move. Any of that kind of stuff you can't have. No analog watches, no ticking, right? All that
mm-hmm,
stuff has to go. Um, and then, of course, everybody's got their own microphone, and we're not right next to each other. We have a little distance. So they would often work it out that if I had like an argument between like me and Fred Tatasciore as Hulk,
mm-hmm,
like we'd be across the room for each other.
gotcha,
And so, which is really great. Now, if a little bit of bleed of my stuff shows up on his mic, they could probably get rid of it,
yeah,
like digitally. But for the most part, it meant so many good things, right? Typically, you would be by yourself and you'd be doing like one half of the argument, and then he'd record another day the other half, and then they'd edit it together, and it'll sound fine, but you could tell like it didn't happen on the same day,
Yeah.
and you can't really react to each other. But when you're squaring off with Fred Tatasciore and you got a fight, like if you're meant to throw a punch, and he grabs it, right? And like you're picking up on each other's energy as it happens.
Yeah.
When we did the storyline with myself and Thor's love interest, Jane,
Hmm.
she's right there. And we can look at each other.
Yeah.
And suddenly, it becomes theater where I can look my
Mm.
partner in the eye and say what I want to say and share how I feel and respond to respond to what they give me.
Yeah.
That's everything. That's
Yeah.
everything. It's such a huge difference than recording separately and editing together, which I understand you have to do sometimes.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. Okay. I noticed all throughout your IMDb that a lot of the projects that you've worked on, you voice multiple roles. How does that end up happening? Do you know when you're brought in that you're going to be doing multiple roles, or do they just kind of like add extra stuff in, like at a later on?
Yeah, both of those situations happen. Sometimes when you play a part, you know, the contract will say that they can also have you read two, three, or more characters. That
Gotcha.
you also have to, if it's a video game, you'll be doing like an effort library, like the whole like this is what it sounds like when you lift up something light and something heavier. Like you're doing. This is what it sounds like when you walk, when you run, taking a hit, like that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
you're recording all that stuff, and after you do a few of them, you realize that chances are you'll be doing that again. But yes, sometimes you can prepare knowing that you'll play multiple parts. I know that I've been in video games where they're fantasy based, and like one character is like a troll, and the other character is an elf, and the other character is a mage, and they're gonna sound different because a lot of them are different species.
Yeah.
The more preparation you have for that, the better. But again, those people who play these games or who understand the mythology and understand the characters, the species, where they're from, if they're from the sea, if they're from the air, if they're born of fire, all these things, if they're rich, poor, if they're smart, if they're not educated, all those things will play into how you perform and how you sound. So the more you can know before you show up, the better. But a lot of this is sort of figuring it out and tap dancing on the spot,
Gotcha.
which is another skill.
I was gonna say it sounds like another skill.
Yeah.
What's your favorite character that you've played, if you have one?
Yeah, what's my favorite character? I think, oh man, how
You
do
have
you
a very
choose?
extensive. You First of all, this is going to be very impressive if you can pick one because you have a very extensive IMDb page. You have a
Um,
very extensive list of people you've played.
yeah. Oh, how do you choose? I guess if I had to pick, I'd pick Thor. I think because, above and beyond all of the strength and what he can do, show of might, there's something so relatable and human to him.
Yeah,
And there's something so innocent about him. Like him being this incredible, powerful, you know, God. And yet meeting this woman changes him entirely. And it's curious and something that his might and strength doesn't matter here.
yeah,
It's all new territory. And in that same way, I like playing Hulk because when Hulk goes to Planet Hulk and where he winds up, he's not the biggest and strongest anymore.
yep,
Like now, the thing that made him special is taken away, and he has to rely on his charm and his brains, things that Hulk is never, and his emotional sensitivity. I mean, that's pretty nuts.
yeah,
It's really fun to explore. Yeah,
yeah.
both of those guys. It's a toss
Okay,
up.
okay. So you're an actual voice acting coach, so I'll try to refrain from asking questions that
Oh, you
basically
can
end
ask
up
whatever you
being.
want.
I'm going to do my best to refrain from asking questions that are basically going to end up being like free tips or help or anything like that. But I
It's
am
fine.
curious, listening to some of your characters, I do recognize your voice. Now that I know that it's you, and I've gone back and I've listened to like I've pulled up certain clips to just to get the variety of voices that you've done or characters that you've done.
Yeah.
Um, even though some of them I recognize your voice, there are some that don't sound like you at all. Like
Mm.
your Thor doesn't sound like Maroni from Killing Joke. You played Grim Reaper and Shocker in Marvel Ultimate Alliance 2, and they sound nothing alike.
Yeah.
How do you figure out the voice for a character?
Such a good question. I think the first thing I think about is starting with my own voice.
Hmm.
Like, I don't try to have no voice, and I don't just try to sound like a new character. I
Hmm.
start with me because I am the vehicle for every character I play on
Yep.
stage, on screen, doesn't matter, right? Start with me, and then based on the given circumstance from the story, like I'll read about them and their background and what they've been through and what they're going to do
Mm.
and what they physically look like. I let all of that affect my voice, and I do what any kid would do when they go play with their friends. I just play. I just play pretend, you know? So like if my character is huge, I try to make myself take up space and sound bigger, right? And do they scream a lot? Maybe they'd have a lot of texture in their voice, right? So, that's what I think about. I'm also aware as an actor of my voice as an instrument and thinking about playing it, like in terms of musicality. Like, do I use a whole lot of notes when I use my voice, or do I stay on the same note a lot, right? Do I just stay here in this one tone? I think about what resonator I'm using, right? Like singers think about resonating all the time, like these hollows that you can vibrate. Like when you play acoustic guitar, you're always vibrating the hollow body of that guitar. But with your voice, you can decide where those vibrations go and make a different sound. Like right now, I'm resonating from my mouth. It has this very forward, bright American sound. But I can also move it up into my sinuses up here. And as I move it up, the pitch also goes up and it has a different sound, right? Maybe a little bit of nasal, maybe some like,
Mm-hmm.
and then I can bring it down
Wow.
into my throat here, which is a very, I can put a lot of texture on my voice here. It sounds a little bit more fragile here. This is where I do like The Walking Dead, right? Because there's a lot of room for that. And then I can also resonate from my chest here, which can sound, this is like Werewolf by Night, kind of this area here, which feels dramatic and dark and maybe sexy and maybe scary or
Wow.
sensitive. So, like, it's like playing different instruments for different music, So all of that plays into how I set up a character. But I never just think about it like putting on a vocal mask, right?
Yeah.
Like now I'm going to sound like this character. I
Hmm.
build it. I build it based on what I read in the script.
Wow. That was actually incredibly impressive because I always knew that like people kind of I always think back to Smoking Aces when I watched that, and Joel Egerton, which is, I know, previously you said the fact that people recognize you from House. I think it's just like seeing somebody and then just seeing their face. I've done rewatches of House maybe a couple of times
Yeah,
over the course of when I actually watched it when I aired, like since it's ended.
yeah,
But I
yeah.
think you just tend to recognize people. But in Smoking Aces, Joel Egerton plays a bodyguard, but one of the hitmen in the movies ended up killing him and like making a mask of his face and then acting like him. But then he smokes like a cigarette and sprays like some hairspray or something else in his mouth to
Uh-huh.
like try to get his voice as closely sounding as possible
Right.
to that character's voice. And so I know that people can use like different parts of their voice
Sure.
to actually change their voice and everything like that. But like that was amazing. Like no, like
Well,
seeing
listen,
that.
I will tell you right now, there are people that are far more adept in it than I am. Some of these people that have been doing animation and video game for the bulk of their career, I'm mostly a promo guy. I also do
Yeah.
narration and commercials and trailers and stuff, but most of what I do is promos. But people who do animation and video game all the time are remarkable what they can do with their instrument. It's incredible. Even I'll stand in front of them and just knocked out by it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that was very, very impressive. Yeah, look, Rick, I'm so appreciative of you taking your time out of your busy schedule to do this with me. That's all I got for you.
All right.
This was an amazing insight and just being able to pick your brain like this. Again, I'm so gracious. Thank you for this opportunity. Yeah, anybody who catches this, please check Rick out. I'm going to go to his page after this because he has like tips and everything. I'm just gonna go check out his page. I'm gonna go do a rewatch of Earth's Mightiest Heroes. I'm doing this interview from my desktop, which is like my gaming computer. So obviously it's a desktop. I have Arkham Origins and Arkham Knight. I don't think you played anybody in Arkham Knight, but you definitely played somebody in Arkham Origins.
Yeah.
I just might go ahead and just play a couple of hours of Arkham Origins
I think you
today. Who
probably
knows?
should.
Yeah. So I look again. I cannot state enough how thankful I am for you to take your time out of your day and doing this with me. I appreciate it as always. Everybody, please go check out Rick's page. I didn't know that you were really new to social media.
I'm brand new.
The fact that you've been doing it a couple of months is just crazy.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, thank you again, sir, and I appreciate it. I really, really do.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Listen, it was great to meet you and great to talk to you, and we should do it again sometime.
Absolutely.